You ever try one of those vape pens? Those vapes? It'll make you look like a real piece of shit, but I think it's healthier.
Yeah, maybe.
I know that Jeff comes on strong, but he's got a knack for picking winners, and he picked you.
Yeah, has he?
Ben, I'm just saying that this is a train that you probably want to be on. Ben.
I had these long conversations with Bradley. Once we kind of felt like we'd kicked around enough of these kind of hypotheticals and given him enough meat to start with, then he kind of disappeared and basically came back with the first draft of the script. It ended up being about 20 pages long, the first draft. Then it just becomes a process of going back and forth and feeling what feels real and what needs to be modified, and we start kind of chipping away. Bradley's an amazing writer and very busy with other projects, and Bradley ended up having to step away for a little while, and so I kind of took over really working as a primary author of the revisions as they were happening. And so that was a very overwhelming feeling for me, just because I had never written anything properly before. Bradley was really amazing. I would send him revisions as we were going along, and he would make some suggestions and add a little splash of things here and there and make some comments about the way that the words would translate to actual production.
Yeah, let's take 5.
One thing I don't love her saying, tell me you know it's not working. This is all happening to, like, she says what's wrong right off the bat, and I feel like people don't do that a lot.
Right.
You take some coaxing and you get it out of it.
Right. Well, maybe what it is she comes out and doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
And David's character, and Ben basically says, hey, look, like, asshole sound guy, he's just an asshole sound guy. Don't worry about it.
That's it right there. That's it. She's talking about something that's not the problem. You know, like, a lot of people do that when they're, like, upset about something that, like, it takes them a while to get to what the real problem is.
Hey. What's going on? Hey, look, Tim's harmless. And I know he's not the first sound guy to give you shit during a sound check.
In the drafts of the film that I thought we would end up shooting, even though we were like 6 to 8 drafts away from shooting, there was a lot of interaction that I had with Ben and Jesse individually interacting with fans, and that a lot of the moments of realization that they both had about how this kind of wasn't working came through their interactions with fans. And basically that got completely cut out. There's no interactions with fans in the script that we shot. Part of it ultimately was a logistical reason. The amount of characters that we needed to have speaking roles, and it just was too complicated and ultimately took away from the story. This is about Ben and Jesse, seeing them work things out on camera as opposed to talking them out with another character.
Yeah, Ben, you know I'm your biggest fan, right? You are the real deal, man. And you're a great band leader. And more importantly, bands follow you. The thing is with Jessie, you know, she's got some ideas she needs to be educated on. You know, we're gonna help her with that, but there's no doubt she's got that thing, you know? She's got that thing. I mean, look, people don't want polished pop stars anymore. They want authenticity, man. You know? That's what you bring to the table. Cool, man. Good chat, dude. I'm looking forward to the show. All right? Good talk.
If anything, this script had more dialogue than it needed. There needed to be moments where they're just processing, basically, because these are big decisions, and in our lives when we make the big decisions. We talk for sure, but then at some point you gotta go away and just like think about it. And there wasn't that in the script. So a lot of the making space in the last drafts was thinning out how much people were talking, allowing there to be a little bit more breathing room. I wanted to write with Bradley because I respect him as a writer and because we both knew David and it would be cool to work on something together. But what I didn't understand was that he was actually a mentor to me in this process of how words go from script to screen. And I didn't know how those things translated. I remember the very last draft, he took a pass and he put in these couple of lines here and there. One line he put in, the manager walks up to Ben in the alleyway and he's like, "Hey, you ever tried vaping?" And when I read it, I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, let's cut that out, you know? And he basically was like, don't cut that out. Just let it play on set and see if it does anything, basically. And when the manager walks up during the take, he says to Ben, like, "Hey, you ever tried vaping?" And David, as Ben, started chuckling and they had this moment together. And I was like, oh my God, like, Bradley knew, like, on the page, like, yeah, it's weird to like talk about vaping, but like that created an actual moment in real life. I feel like a lot of my contribution to the script was thematic things wrapped in dialogue, basically exposition. And so much of the things I was asking the actors to say, they didn't need to say, they just needed to be. And I think that Bradley fundamentally knew ways to add dialogue that would create action instead of dialogue that tells you what's happening.
Holy shit! Sanjay! Fuck, I forgot. I got a gift for our front man, or front woman, I don't know.
Front man.
Look at that. Is that fucking cool?
Wow.
Is that fucking cool or what? Guys, is that fucking cool? Look, I wanted to commemorate tonight, the Troubadour. Your guys' set, Jesse, you, coming out from behind the guitar. My God, the Heights, 2.0.
I don't even know what to say.
Just take it, it's a gift.
Thank you.
You know what we should do? We gotta get these guys.
I kept thinking every little piece had to be perfectly in its place in the script before we could start filming. So, oh my gosh, let's move this one word over here instead and we'll change this screen direction and then we'll do this. And at some point, the reality is when we get on set, things are gonna shake down differently than are on the page. That's just gonna happen. These actors are human beings. The characters on the page, the words, are completely my creation. And the disconnect between the hypothetical character and the real person in real life doing this thing, at some point I realized like futzing with every little tiny thing and moving things around or whatever was an exercise in futility. As long as we have the general flow and scenes and why and what's important in each of the scenes figured out, internalized, then let's just get to set, because a lot of that stuff is gonna work itself out once we're rolling camera. The shooting draft ended up being draft 22. So there was an enormous amount of work going from draft 1 to draft 22. I think it ballooned to almost 30 pages at one point, and then about halfway through the drafts, it started being, okay, let's start. What can we take out? This is insane. There's too much happening. So it was whittling down, and we ended up arriving at a 17-page final draft that we were using to then build our schedule and production, and the producers were able to take that draft and make it practical. I wrote the film with a specific venue in mind, which is the Troubadour in Los Angeles. The reality though is that I hadn't actually been in the Troubadour in some time, and so a lot of my screen direction and ideas of what rooms connect to where and all these scenes that I was writing, I realized were ultimately kind of hypothetical. And I think that kind of cascaded a bunch of realizations that, like, if we're gonna actually make this thing, we're gonna need to go to the venue and see what the actual space is, because that will inform then going back into the script. That will inform some practical decisions, which ultimately will help us get to the shooting draft, let us tighten up everything and get ready for production.
I know we're all chasing perfection here, but from where I was standing, it sounded good.
You've got to be kidding me. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's just take 5.
Yeah, let's take 5.